of today's meeting is for you all to get your questions answered. We've heard information at our board meetings with concerns that you have about incidents that are going on within our community. We've been watching the Facebook posts that are out there, and we know that you have a concern. So our public safety officers, Supervisor Cooks, Representative CJ, and Anna from Silverlakes Code Enforcement are here to answer your questions. But first, we're gonna start with a scope of service provision that these different entities provide. Sometimes it's confusing of who we should call for what and who provides certain services. And we feel like we call one entity and they tell us to call another entity. I have heard those comments repeatedly from our community. So today they are going to bring clarity to some of those questions. We're going to allow them to each speak for a few minutes, and then we're going to open it up to public comments. And I do ask that we be organized in how we do that. We're not gonna have you write questions down. We're gonna open it up and allow you to speak from the floor, and then the appropriate individual here will respond to those questions. So first, we'll start with our CHP partners, Captain Kovalex.
Is this okay?
You can speak from there or come here,
Oh, that's
whatever
great.
you prefer.
Thank you. Good. All right. Thank you all for having us. Obviously, I'm Captain Todd Kopelitz. Like I said, I'm the commander of our Victorville CHP station. Geographically, so you have an idea of the area I cover, we cover. I don't cover anything besides the desk. LA County line to Wrightwood, to basically the end of your community right here, up the 395, a good portion, and then all the way out to the west to the Lucerne Valley. Almost, if you're familiar with the off-road world where the King of the Hammers is, we cut off just prior to that. So it kind of gives you an idea of the geographic area I cover. And not to let you in too much inside baseball, but on an average day watch, today I have 2 people covering that area. For a good day watch, I'll have 4, maximum maybe 5 officers covering that geographic region. The backstory on the Victorville Command is it started out as a substation for the Barstow area. We've never been big. They eventually made it its own station. I couldn't tell you. Jeff, do you know the year they made it its own station?
I do not.
Officer Wheeler's father was actually a sergeant in Victorville. So we're running off a command that was never meant to originally be a command, and they made it a command as these communities got a little bit bigger. But obviously in the 2000s, the greater high desert has exploded in population. And I'm sure the Captain Lutz will agree too, a lot of our agencies with what we've been allotted was never meant to cover what we're covering now. On average, my station takes about 150 crashes a month, so roughly 1,800 a year, and I have 18 officers working the road in total right now, just to put it in perspective. CHP's responsibility is all things traffic and all state facilities. We are full peace officer powers, we have law enforcement rights essentially wherever we go. However, jurisdictionally speaking, the way the government code is worded is our primary authority is in regards to traffic. I can't get shorter, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm so tall. So primarily, like on the roads you have here, we would have traffic authority is where what we would respond to. There's a crash, there's like something that happens on the roadway as far as like a DUI crash or something like that, if that makes sense. We also have authority at any state facility, state buildings, the aqueduct, for instance. When it comes to crime type stuff, when it comes to like penal code type stuff, we defer to the sheriffs because they have the primary investigative authority. Off-highway vehicle stuff, because this just came up recently at the Oak Hills MAC. I do not have the authority to enforce vehicle code rules on OHV vehicles operating off county maintained roadways. It's very specific in the vehicle code. In fact, it lays out that it's not our job to do that. That falls on the sheriff department and code enforcement. And they can lay that out a little better than I can. They have all the county municipal codes for OHV enforcement. Again, the biggest thing is it's non-county maintained roadway. Okay, just so we're clear on that one. But that's the gist of what CHP's responsibility is. Any questions on that? I'll start back way with you, sir.
Oh, okay.
Golf carts on the road here.
Okay, so, we recently received a complaint via one of your state senators, regarding your golf carts out here on the road.
Oh, gosh.
I came out here myself kind of to see the situation. You have signs everywhere that say golf carts are allowed during daylight hours. There's a specific municipal code referenced on there, or sorry, a county code. I cannot find any information on that county code. So I did ask the representative from the supervisor's office, we're gonna do a little research. I'm gonna try and see what some of the backstory is on that. But regardless of that sign, you're in a golf course community, people are allowed to drive golf carts on your roads. Now, there are some limitations on that. The vehicle code's very specific about what qualifies as a golf cart versus what qualifies not as a golf cart. And this is where I have to say this gently because this is obviously being live streamed, people are recording it. But I would wager there's many people in this room whose golf cart they use at the golf course for golfing has more than 2 seats. I'm sure as a community, you'd rather I not impound those golf carts operating on the roadway, since they probably don't meet the definition of a golf cart anymore. If I come out here to enforce on golf carts, I have to enforce fairly across the board with everybody. I'm not gonna just target kids. If I see you operating a golf cart that's not a golf cart on the road, I'm gonna target the first person I see, because that's what I have to do. In regards to people underage operating a golf cart, the law in California is if you're on the roadway, even though it's a golf cart, under 15 miles an hour, all that stuff, they need to have a driver's license. They don't need to have insurance, but they do need to have a driver's license, be 16 or older. I can't stop someone just because I think they look young. That's not reason for a stop. I can't do that if they're driving a car. I can't do that if they're driving a golf cart. I have to have some other reason to stop them. Now, obviously, if it's like a 6-year-old driving it, that's different. But you get what I'm saying? It's kind of, it's checking someone's driver's license. I can't stop a car and be like, I think that guy doesn't have a license. I don't have the authority to do that. It's a secondary violation. Same thing in a golf cart. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of nitty gritty on golf carts. There's a lot of definitional stuff in the vehicle code that lays out what is and what isn't. 1,300 pounds or less, can't go over 15 miles per hour, only has 2 seats. Only operated on roads that are 25 miles per hour or less. So, but I did receive the complaint, and I'm gonna tell you what I told the senator's office via our Office of Special Reps. I came out myself to kind of see how many golf carts were driving around. I saw 4. One of them was in the dirt, and the other 3 were very obviously coming to and from the golf course. I was ogling some of their Vokey wedges. Now, that's only one time. I'm gonna have my senior volunteer patrols come out a couple times, kind of task my sergeant coming out to see how bad it really is. I'd rather go the educational route a little bit, especially to start with. I don't wanna start, we all got, everybody's got lives, everybody's got nothing to do. I'd rather try and teach people. And I think as a community, you guys can all probably work a little bit better together too to really hopefully educate each other and some stuff. If we have to come in and start enforcing, I just want to warn you all that I will be fair as far as I will do it to everybody, if that makes sense. Because I have to. So, the fire department had. You have a question? I ignored you.
What it was.
I think they were, you were actually sorry.
Hold on, George.
I think the biggest problem most of the adults in this community have is with kids in particular, is not so much a kid driving a golf cart, but 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 kids on a golf cart and hanging out, hanging off from every direction, firing down the street, and it's very dangerous, and we see that all the time.
Yeah, have I personally? No. Do I doubt that it happens? No. I was also young and stupid, so I have 6 broken arms to prove it, so. I understand what you're saying, and that's definitely a concern. I would, again, when it comes to that stuff, I'd rather lean early on into the education, maybe getting with the community, getting with people, because, and I will say, especially with something like a golf carts, your community with DHOA may have more teeth than I can potentially give you initially, if that makes sense. I know people love HOAs, I grew up in one, it's not the best, but that might be a better tool of working together kind of thing if it starts with, if that makes sense, but I totally get what you're saying. You, sir.
When I was a teenager driving my VW bus down the 57 freeway or the 5 freeway, there was a CHP every time I got on the freeway, and I know because they busted me. Why are there so few CHPs now?
A lot of it is, we have the same numbers, but how much has California grown? I'm not gonna even assume when you drove a VW bus. I figured it was maybe 10, 15 years ago, max. But we are doing much more as an agency than we were back then. I mean, essentially, we're operating with numbers less than we had in the 70s right now. Everybody knows 2020 was not the best time if you wore a badge, unless it was a fire department badge, then you were mostly cool. We lost a ton of personnel in 2020 and 2021. Some people fleeing for other states, some people leaving for other agencies, some people just saying, this ain't worth the trouble. We went down to where we had, usually we operate with about 7,000, 7,400 sworn statewide. We were down 1,200 personnel. We've made a lot back. We've hired over 1,000, but the problem is since 2020, a bunch more people have retired. So we're still down 600 statewide. There is actually some hope on the horizon for our station. We actually had 3 cadets today do their first ride along. They show up later this month, but I gotta get them trained. That's gonna take 3-4 months. I then also have been getting 2 more transfers in May 1st. So that's a swing of 5 personnel. That's huge for my station. That'll put me from 18 on the road to 23, which that's almost a complete extra shift. But a lot of it is just, we're just doing more. They're responding to more calls, and some of it's training. We do a lot where we take people off the freeway. Back then, we probably didn't wear bulletproof vests either, but we've adjusted, and we know that people are flying by at high speed. If I'm gonna make a traffic stop, if there's not a really good spot to stop them, I'll take them to the next exit and do it on a city street. I'd rather be standing next to traffic doing 35 than doing 80. So there's a lot of it is just more us doing more jobs, but a lot of it's just we've had a lot of attrition and not a lot of increase with how much California has increased. So hopefully answers some of the questions. But I totally get what you're saying. I drive these roads too, so yes, ma'am.
What is a 4-seater golf cart?
A golf cart with 4.
Seats, what is that considered?
Well, not a golf cart.
It's not a golf cart. It looks like a golf cart, but it's not a golf cart.
Correct.
It's got
But
4 seats.
so the biggest thing is I have to operate off definitions. So just like I said, I can't enforce the vehicle code off highway because it's very prescribed where I can enforce registration, where I can, it's very defined in these big old books that we gotta read. And then the golf cart's one of them. But the definition in the vehicle code is very specific of what qualifies as a golf cart. And one of it said it only has 2 seats, room for a driver and room for a passenger. If it has 4 seats, it's moving into what we call a low-speed vehicle territory. And if you're a low-speed vehicle, now you gotta have license plate. You gotta pay for registration every year. You need to have insurance. You gotta have mirrors, you gotta have a horn, you gotta have brake lights, headlights, turn signal switches, all the good stuff. So if it's a 4-seater golf cart, it's not a golf cart anymore, and now you gotta do all these other hoops, so. Unless it's totally off-road or private property kind of thing, so.
So if someone had a license on it, I mean, if it was licensed, for registration and so forth, wouldn't it be legal to drive here?
Yeah, then it's considered a low-speed vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah, but you gotta meet all those definitions. Sorry.
What about a side-by-side that is street legal, has a license plate from another state?
But yeah, it's not legal in California. Yes, ma'am.
I see mothers in regular golf carts, the 2-seaters, driving kids to school with babies hanging on the side. What would that fall under? Because they're not in car seats.
They don't have to be a car, it's a golf cart.
Okay.
So it's in the golf carts, it's only supposed to be going 15 miles an hour. So there's not, for us, now mind you, I only have so much learning. I live in an unincorporated community of Riverside County. Do I have a golf cart and do I drive it to my neighbor's house? Yeah. Like, let's be real, because I'm a little bit lazy. But there's just, I'm not the most versed on golf cart laws. I know quite a bit about it, but I don't know everything. If they're allowed to drive there, it would really depend. Like, is she dangling the baby out? Then that's reckless driving. I can stop that. There's balance to be had in how we do this. I don't want to be Silverlakes and Hellendale's nanny. But if people are being unsafe, got 8 kids on a golf cart, that is something that we should be working on. So, I think you were next, sir.
I got a question about school districts or school zones. There's a lot of, the elementary school and high school, a lot of speed in there. That area, is there a way, or point me in the direction of requesting speed bumps or get up the highway control signs where it says 50 miles an hour, so driving through those areas, you can actually see if there's speed issues there. And I'm not just a cranky old guy that's across the school, yelling at people, so, but there's a lot, and then, especially when there's kids coming out of school, it's scary sometimes.
Yeah.
People go through the elementary school area, and the kids are running out, and they run across the street, from a parked car into the street, into a parked car, and if you're not going speed limit, you're gonna hit them, so that's, very, very concerning for me, especially, in and around the school zones, that can be, help.
So infrastructure wise, you would need to request it through the county. The county's one that maintains the roads that do all the infrastructure of the county.
The affordable ones, can you guys do that for us?
We can, so what I can do, I was actually just writing that down. My senior volunteers, we have a gag of them. I have a former one in the room here somewhere, right there. I've been having them be a little more proactive with our radar trailer. I will get on them to make this one of our stops with it routinely. I'll also work on seeing if I can get them in a rotation, doing like what we call a school patrol, where they park in front of the school with a black and white car. It's a senior volunteer. They can't make any enforcement stops, but they park, turn the lights on, and you'd be surprised what difference that makes. But I would love to have them come as, let me just catch my notes up, because I was trying to write and listen and not be rude. So, that's up to you. I don't want to derail your thing, I'm sure. Let me take one more and then I'll sit down and let the captain, I'm sure he's tired of hearing me speak. Sorry, let me get one more. I think over there she had hers up first.
So, we all drive on Route 66, some of us all day. Any opinion about people passing on the double yellows and trying to kill us?
Oh, that feels very leading.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, I mean, would I love to have a person on Route 66 24/7 and a person in Silverlakes 24/7? Yeah, 100%. I triage based on where I have the most crashes and the most fatal crashes. And as dangerous as it is, y'all don't hold a candle to feeling in Pinion Hills right now.
Really?
They just are doing their best to really thin the herd, it seems like. So, that sounds really callous, and I apologize. My poor officers are taking so many fatal crashes that are so unnecessary for people passing in really dangerous spots, and it's usually 95% of the time from someone passing dangerously. And let me temper some of my calluses. My brother was killed in a crash when I was 8. So when I was 10, back in '93. You can do the math on that. So I don't want to seem like I'm fully calloused. He's actually the reason I do this job. But it's one of those, I have to balance where I deploy the most. And as I get more personnel, I will try and focus the beats more so we can get someone more on Route 66, because it is sketchy and people are using it to pass a lot of things and driving in ways that are not safe, obviously. And we do come out here, not as much as we'd like. We've had some pretty good pursuits actually out here lately. We're chasing some of the bank robbers or the train robbers on Route 66 just like a month and a half ago. So yeah, no, my opinion is it's legal. I'd love to do more about it. I'm going to try and do more about it as time goes on, as I get more personnel. So.
And you do know they use that turning lane by the cement company to pass?
I was yelling at him not to use it to pass the truck going like 45 on the way here today. I'm just kidding. He didn't pass them in the right lane. It was dangerous. Yeah, no, it's all that by the cement. That's a really weird area over there. So, yeah. So.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm gonna.
So we'll have an opportunity for questions for all of you. So next we'll invite Captain Letza, and he can talk about some of their scope of work, what they cover. He can take a few questions, and then after that, we'll have CJ Porter come up and just share a few words. Then we'll open it up to a general question and answer forum. Captain?
Good evening. The mic is perfect size.
Well, you are more handsome than me, Ken, so.
I'm older too. Before we start, I'd like to thank our COPs that actually work out here. Henry Smiler, not Giovanni, but John Blue. Thank you, John. They're the COPs for the entire station. We don't have COPs. We don't have a group like that. So the area of the Victor Valley Station that we covered is almost identical to CHP. LA County line halfway between Lucerne Valley and 29 Palms, 138 I-15 to the other side of your property here. So we cover 1,403 square miles. So we have an office in Phelan that covers basically Palmdale up to Wrightwood. The office in Lucerne handles the east side of Apple Valley out, and then the main station. One thing to remember, our stations are just a gathering place. We are not firefighters. Love our firefighters. If any of you are firefighters, we love you and your Barker loungers, okay, and your gyms. We don't have that. That is just a place for the deputies to get a car, get a new fire extinguisher, go potty, throw in their reports. So we can have a station anywhere and it doesn't mean a thing. Their office is their car. That's where they do everything, especially with the technology and that. So going on staffing, so Lucerne Valley most of the time has one, always, sometimes two deputies covering that area out of Lucerne. The Victor Valley station has the county operation, which currently is one deputy on the east side of the freeway, one deputy on the west side of the freeway, from I-15, 138 to your property. So there's two covering that area. Phelan generally has two. On a good day, they might have three. And again, they cover Palmdale Road up to Wrightwood. Same is his operation. I have not had an increase in staffing in forever until last year. The county supervisor's office worked very well with the sheriff, and we added 7 new deputy positions. Now, when we say we added 7 deputies, to put one deputy in the field 24 hours a day takes 5. So that would give me 1 beat. Problem is, I'm down 10 currently. The 7 that we got, we can't fill. We don't have enough people applying. And then we're short a couple that retired, either medically or longevity, and those have not been filled. And it's not just us. The department's down approximately 300 deputy sheriffs. So if you consider in my command, there's me, the captain, 1 lieutenant, 8 sergeants, 7 detectives, and 66 deputy sheriffs. Of the 66, I'm short 10. So about 20% on my staffing. Then of the 66, the city of Adelanto has a contract with us. So their contract is for 15 deputy sheriffs. So out of the 66, 15 of those belong to the city of Adelanto. The city of Adelanto has a $7.746 million contract to have 3 deputies. In 2003, they had the same number of deputies. They had 18,000 people. Currently, they have 3, and there's 38,000 people in that city. They have not increased their staffing 1 bit in 22 years. And that. So you can see where our ratios are. Last year that we just closed out, Victor Valley Station, the county portion, drew 4,730 criminal reports, criminal information, things like that. The city of Adelanto, which has 31 square miles, drew 2,573. So they drew almost half as much reports just in their little cube as the entire county operation drew in total and that. So if we have 2 in the county, 2 in Wrightwood, Phelan, and 2 in Victor Valley, or the Lucerne Valley, and someone calls in sick that's assigned to the city of Adelanto, we are required to pull someone from the county operation to fill that contract, because that is a contract that we must provide those services. On the side, the city of Adelanto pays none of my salary, even though I'm technically the chief of police commander of that station. They do not pay for my services. They get them. I go to the council meetings, I go to all the public events, but they get my services as part of the contract. In exchange, they give us the building. If you've been in the building, it's not a fair exchange. I'll tell you that right now. I'm worth a lot more than that building. So that comes up to one of the other points. We are moving our sheriff station. We did buy the old Baldy Mesa Water District building on Duncan Road, which is west of Bear Valley and 395. We were actually able to buy the property and the building, and then the 3 parcels around it. So we actually have an 8.5 acre compound that we're in the plans of developing and building. It's still gonna be a couple years away with bureaucracy to get that thing built. I'm just trying to get the existing building remodeled to put in a homicide detail, internal affairs, local weapon, CCW, concealed weapons training office there. So if any of you are getting CCWs, you get trained up here, not go down the hill. local records office. So again, if you need some record out of headquarters, we'll be able to get it there. That's about a 6,000 square foot building. And so it's there, it's in good shape, even though it's been abandoned all these years. And we did, believe it or not, county did a great job. We got all the 8.5 acres and the 6,000 square foot building for just under $1 million. For commercial property, that was a great find. But we don't know the exact cost of the new building yet. We've got about 24 million saved out of the last 2 years' budget. We've been able to set aside with the county's help a little bit each year to set it aside. We'll probably build the new building in phases. So currently, the redevelopment of the existing building, that's actually falling under county facility management, not under my budget. So I'm getting a remodel of about $4 million for the building and the parking lot and fencing the entire property. That would be on the county's dime, not on my budget. So that'll make my budget go farther. But as you know, every year you don't build something, the costs go up. So we're waiting to get that. I've stuffed everything I can into that operation that I think I'll need for the next 30 years. Because if you don't build it for the future, you're behind the curve. So that's what we're trying to do. But that's been some of the concern is we're gonna be a few miles more down 395. That's the building, that's not the deputies. The city of Atlanta deputies, they're in the building more often because we're in the middle of the city and that. But the county deputies, if it wasn't for their cell phones and their computers, they'd never get anything done. We do have body cameras now. I don't know if any of you had the pleasure of interacting with my deputies, hopefully in a good way, but we now have body cameras on all the deputies in that. And they are running unless there is a confidential conversation that has to be turned off. And they will mute it where it records the video, but not the audio and that. And then every night they download all that data, and then those we can use those for anything from administrative investigations to, God forbid, a citizen complaint. The good part about citizen complaints, when an incident happens, we all know there's a component of emotional engagement there, both on the deputy and on the civilian. We've been able to actually clear a lot of that up by just having the watch commander pull his phone up and say, "Ma'am, is this you? Is this what was really happening at the time?" And we've been able to lessen a lot of that. A lot of that also comes down for you, because what happens out of those, if we cannot prove or disprove the allegations, we end up in a lawsuit. And the lawsuit is your tax dollars. So we're actually able to cut those potential lawsuits astronomically down because of the body worn cameras. The next version that's coming out, because I'll bring up the incident we had here back in January. We had the 6 homicides on the other side of the freeway and that. During the day, I generally have a couple sergeants on. My administrative sergeant, my detective sergeant, and a watch commander. On graveyards, there's one sergeant covering 1,403 square miles. So he may be in Lucerne when we had the incident out here, and he's trying to get to it. Christmas Day, I went to the station. We do video briefing because to be at all 3 stations. I was looking at the deputies. The average time on patrol of all the deputies at that time, at that day, was less than 1 year on patrol. You know, so you've got very low experience in life as well as a cop. And that the average at our station is under 2.5 years field experience. So that's another one of those things. So doctors get to practice medicine, lawyers get to practice law, deputy sheriffs are expected to get it right the very first time. Well, we try and we do the training. After they get out of the academy, there's another 6 months of training for us. Some of these kids still live at home with their parents in the dungeon playing Call of Duty. So we ask for a little grace there. They're gonna make mistakes. We will try to fix any mistake that they make. But I will tell you now, my deputy sheriffs are not perfect every time. If I sit here and said everything the deputy did was right, I would just be lying to you. And unfortunately, I get in trouble for being blunt. That's my downfall. For me, I've got 34 years in the department, full time. Altogether, I've got 40. How old are you, Todd?
16.
60, yeah, I've been on longer than he's been alive. I was a volunteer for the department, that's how I started out. As I started out as a volunteer, I used to actually be a manager for Stater Brothers before I did this. So, the experience level, you're gonna see these mistakes. I want you to know it in that. If you have a concern, always ask dispatch to have a watch commander give you a call. The next generation of body cameras, we're waiting for them to come out. They actually are gonna have a two-way function. The watch commander can actually port into that body camera live time and talk to you right there. Because he may be in Lucerne and you want a watch commander, he's not gonna have a battle. He'll get your basic information, we'll be able to do that. So that's one of the next things coming out with technology. As you all know, we got hacked 2 years ago. We're still coming out of that. Hopefully in this quarter, we're gonna finally get to a fully automated report writing system where the deputy again goes to your house, takes his phone out, he's not playing anything on the phone, he's actually putting the information right into his phone. That will port into the report writing system, that'll take the information from the dispatch system, merge it together, and with the proper use of AI, it will create their police reports in a much faster fashion. And you'll be able to get those much faster. So we're working on that. Some of the crime stats, and I broke them down in the Silverlakes beat and the Hillendale beat for the month of December. Because everyone watches Facebook, right? Quit watching Facebook. Okay? I just saw something on my thread today that the gas line between California and Nevada has been turned off and gas by Sunday will be $8 a gallon. I'll stop there. Okay, there was a temporary power outage in Vegas to the pipeline. But the problem was, that was announced 2 days ago. This person announced it yesterday, and it was fixed the first day. So you're getting misinformation. Good example, my PIO, Stacy over here, when we had the Wrightwood fire. We spent 7 days, almost 24 hours a day up there between her and I and my lieutenant. And we had to go up and take pictures and video of Wrightwood because people were posting that first night that Wrightwood was gone. And people believed the information on the internet. And so she went through with the fire, taking video. I think that the last time I checked has 158,000 views of her video. Look at our internet, look at CHP's internet, look at the county supervisor's internet, but quit looking at people, whatever, experts. That is the worst thing you can do. Stacy and I both do our Twitter. I have my own Twitter account, she has the station's Twitter account. All of our social media in the Sheriff's Department, whether it's Central Station, Chino Hills, when we put it out on one of our platforms, it goes through all of our platforms in the Sheriff's Department. So I'm going code 3 in my unmarked car up to Wrightwood to do an evacuation, and I'm sending out a tweet, as I'm driving, sorry, telling the community to evacuate.
I know your car, I ain't stopping it.
I know, one of your officers does too, he stopped me recently. I was going a little fast. Very good officer, by the way, very good. But follow our sources. Don't follow the keyboard bandits. That is the worst thing. You're gonna cause yourself a lot of anguish and a lot of hostility, but that stuff is the worst that you can do. So some of the stats, this one was the Hillendale last month. Wow, that was my heart attack. So last month in total, we had 230 calls for service in the Hillendale area. So when you see that, you're like, that's a lot of calls. You gotta break it down. So when you break down that 230 calls that our dispatch entered, and you take out the fire department's responding to this house for medical aid, fire department's responding to this house for a smoke alarm, take out those, the wireless 911s that were an error, follow-ups by staff, then our child protective service follow-up, we actually for the month ended up with 123 calls for service in the Hillendale area. Of that 123 calls, we ended up with 3 reports out of that. Overall, we ended up with 17 reports, but some of those were our administrative reports that we took. So for the entire month of December, we had 3 reports for that area. You go down, we had a grand theft auto, 2 domestic batteries, and then a few other odd ones that we did. But your major crimes, we haven't had them out here, okay? Silverlakes, let me look at that one real quick. We had a total of, where did I put that one? 237 calls for service. Again, you take out the welfare checks, those 911s, the service of documents by court services, a repossession happened 3 times. We ended up with 237 calls for service, but only 130 of them were actual calls from citizens related to potential incidents. Of those, 5 we took criminal reports on. So we talk about data. Everything I have to do is data driven. So we have total between what actual reports we're taking is 8 for the month in the 2 areas, okay? So when the deputies are out, they're taking these reports, but you see more. If it doesn't get reported to dispatch, I don't get the calls for service that I can then have the sheriff go to the supervisor's office, say, look, the 57 freeway is now 8 lanes wide. It's not 2 lanes wide when I drove my VW Bug down there, maybe, your bus. By the way, I remember riding my horse on the 91 when they were putting in the new one, when I was a kid, coming from Orange County up to Barahoma. So I've been around a minute. We need the data. It doesn't do us any good, whether it takes us 5 minutes or 30 minutes. As I brought up one other time, the deputy covering this area was at 138 and I-15. There was a medical aid out here. He acknowledged it, 59-minute response time. Okay, and you're thinking, oh my God, that's our deputy. If it is life-threatening, we'll pull a deputy out of Adelanto and send them over this way. Even though Adelanto pays for those deputies, as I've had conversations with their council, you get a lot more for your dollar than you're paying for. And so we will move staffing around regardless of area responsibility and things like that. We had some concern with Wrightwood. We used to have a station in Wrightwood, and they moved it down the field, and that was a management decision that was made years ago. And what are we getting for your dollar? And someone in Wrightwood came up with a thing that they paid $900,000 in property tax. I have no idea where they got that number from, okay? And they want a deputy full-time up there. Great. Let's use the model of Adelanto. 5 deputies, 1 per shift, 24 hours a day, based on Adelanto's numbers, would be $2.25 million for that area. If they're only paying $980,000 in their alleged property tax, who's paying the rest? It's a pooled risk environment. But when we had the fire and evacuated Wrightwood, within an hour we had 43 deputy sheriffs up there evacuating. And in 2 hours we had 72 deputies. And we maintained 72 deputies all through that event. And how much do they get charged? Nothing. Because that's the county's budget. It comes out of that. So when you have an incident, God forbid we have a desert brush fire that comes across, you will get CHP. CHP was out there, they were right alongside us when we were evacuating Wrightwood. The National Guard, Caltrans, our people, the Public Works and the code enforcement, they were out there. Animal control was out there. You will get what you need when there's that emergency. But until I can get the deputies hired, and my theoretical plan is to take the county beat from along the freeway to cutting up the freeway. One would be from basically 138 to about Palmdale or Bear Valley. The other one would be Palmdale, Bear Valley, and there up to Adelanto, and then one would be assigned out to this area. But we gotta hire the people. And God loved these other agencies, but everyone else pays more than my department does. You know, love you, Todd.
I knew you were gonna do it, go ahead.
Yeah. They finally, and this is the truth, the CHP finally got a pay raise. and they're finally getting to hire. They need it also, because they are extremely short. I just got 4 new deputies, met with me Thursday that are coming to my station, but I lost 4 people. So I'm at a net 0. But now I'm gonna be short 4 more people because it takes 6 months to get them through their extended training to get them where they go out by themselves. So good part is when a deputy shows up, it'll probably be a 2-man car. So you'll get 2 for the price of 1. So that's what we're doing. We are trying to get out more as we can, but if your staffing is that's, I mean, everyone has their own budget. Everybody has, you know, your business budget. You gotta stay within that budget. I get yelled at all the time because I'm over on my overtime budget, because I tend to not listen about what my budget is. I put out what I need to cover my basics in my communities. I'll take it. What are they gonna do to me? I'm not too worried about that. If you guys have these meetings, I'll show up. I came out to your fine parade. I wish I would've had more candy. I did kind of run out halfway through. And I did not know, Todd, the parade was Star Wars based.
What did you call me?
He's a big Star Wars. Yeah, I would have brought my 7-foot Darth Vader car instead of the little bear I had, if I had known it was Star Wars. You know, but other than that, we know your pain. The sheriff knows your pain. My deputy chief, my boss knows the pain. We need to get butts in the seat. We need people that wanna be deputy sheriffs. We need people that wanna be CHP. I don't know how our fire department buddies are doing, but I know they're strapped a little bit too, and that. So as soon as we get that, and that comes down to you guys supporting us. We don't have a support problem from the public in this county. We truly have a law enforcement support community. This county does. So, he was talking about the off-road vehicles. Vehicle code applies in some places, it don't apply in all the places. You know, they gotta meet the definition. Code enforcement has been really good with us, working with Oak Hills, that they have some, code enforcement, ordinance, I guess it would be. And we will try to work with them. We do have an OHV, off-highway vehicle team. It's currently ran by our, Transit Authority Division. It was under Barstow, now it moved over to them. The sheriff is attempting to get that team from a part-time grant-funded position to a full-time team. But then you'll have one team for the desert. So they may be in Barstow or they may be in Oak Hills. Where do they go? They're gonna need the data. So that's why I'm not saying don't call. We need the data. So maybe I can pitch more that I need that team in my jurisdiction more than Barstow needs it in their jurisdiction, or 29 Pond needs it. And then they will be able to have those. Because right now, my repair budget for this last year to repair my vehicles, my deputies damaged, was over $100,000, because they drive off-road everywhere. And that doesn't include the CHP cruiser that, thank God, I don't have to replace, that took out one of our pursuit suspects on the I-15 head-on, and thank that officer for that too. I heard it was an old car, so thank you.
Oldest,
So,
my oldest.
yeah, it was one he was trying to get rid of anyhow, but not that way. So OHV is a problem everywhere, and we are not gonna chase them in our patrol cars. We just destroy them. So what do we need? We need the off-road vehicles, the off-road motorcycles. Those have a limit too, because then the deputies crash, and then they're permanently disabled. So they have to be reasonable in what they do also. So, if you wanna hold the questions to the end and we do it as a group, that's great, or if you have something specific that you gotta leave, you wanna ask me a question, I'll do my best to answer it for you right now. Yes, ma'am?
So it sounds like you really do need more volunteers with the COP.
I would love those. Stacy will take your name.
No, I've been in the queue for 2 years. So what I'd like you to think about is maybe streamlining the process, maybe, making it more Zoom accessible for at least half of the training, something like that. You'd have more volunteers if you made it more user-friendly to join.
Some of it, I don't know, but some of it is mandated by state police officer standards and training and liability. So that is one of the things we want to use that new building for, is to be able to have, training up here. But if you get with Stacy,
We just got approval to do the next academy in Victorville the first week of March.
okay, so,
It'll be 2 weeks, just like before, Monday through Thursday with Saturdays and Sundays.
yeah.
Just
But
got the approval on Friday.
she has that information about Zoom, maybe we can use that technology.
We've looked at that before and they won't allow it. That's why
Oh.
they canceled all academies during
COVID?
COVID.
Oh, okay. So they canceled all the academies during COVID, they tried to do Zoom and weren't allowed. So those, but I got a meeting next week, we actually have a general staff meeting with the sheriff, and I'll bring that up to them too, that maybe that's a way to be able to get some more people through, and it wouldn't be the first thing I've asked them, and I've been told no. So, I was told no, I wasn't gonna get a snow cat for Wrightwood, and I got a $341,000 snow cat now, so.
Let's take one more question.
One more question before we get going, yes ma'am?
Thank you first, for your service and dedication to our community. Our HOA has been experiencing issues with theft and vandalism, particularly in the late evenings. Members have expressed to, and are requesting action from the HOA, to address these problems. One of the proposed solutions is hiring armed guards to patrol the community. Would your department be willing to collaborate with our armed guards to address these safety concerns and ensure a coordinated effort to deter criminal activity?
Okay, I'll answer your question.
Would it be possible to have some people asking the question to go to the mic? Would we all hear?
If you get it, she was asking about vandalism and getting armed security within, the association. So you're talking about all the vandalism, right?
No, what I'm talking about is that there are members that are coming to the board of directors, and they're frustrated because obviously you guys are short-staffed, which we
Yeah.
understand and we can appreciate, right? But as a board member, our responsibility is to be able to meet, the needs and the requests of our community.
Right.
So what happened at the meet and greet, homeowners were saying we have security issues. So
Right.
an option that came up was, to hire personal security.
Mhm.
So my question to you is, if the HOA, okay, based on the members, if they supported this, right, because it has to be incorporated in our budget, if they were in favor of having armed guards for the period of time, would your departments be willing to coordinate with them to deter the criminal activity?
It would be no different than Spring Valley Lake security. Spring Valley Lake has security. But from what I understand, from living in Spring Valley Lake, they will only protect association property.
Yep.
Because of liability. They will not protect your house or her house or his house.
Right, but what
So-
we're talking about is monitoring at the night, so if they're coming through and it's a deterrent, and they find issues,
We'll respond like anything.
okay, that's what
Yeah, the month of December, we had a total of 3 vandalism reports in Silverlakes.
Right, but what I think is happening is that people are going on Facebook rather than calling you.
Right.
And letting you know what's going on.
Right,
so that you
100%.
can then-
Or ring,
Correct.
yeah, please call us. But yeah, if you have a security, just like Spring Valley, we work with them all the time. They're always letting us know about problems in their parks and their general areas. So, okay? All right.
So one of the strongest supporters for safety in our community has been First District Supervisor Paul Cook. And CJ Porter has been, the representative from his office assigned to us. When you saw the task force for the marijuana, group, which we had a disproportionate impact in our area for all of those grow houses. We need to thank the supervisor for that, his support. The support that we just heard for additional deputies for, our Victor Valley Station, a direct result of his efforts and the efforts of his staff. So we really need to let the supervisor know that we appreciate that. Keep that positive message going to him of what we need as a community, and we have seen from this supervisor that he does listen and respond. So with that, I'll turn it over to CJ Cook to share a few words with you.
Thank you, I'll probably just
You
stay,
can sit there.
I'll just stay here.
CJ Porter. Sorry, CJ Porter.
Thank you, Kimberly. So I'll probably be deferring to Captain Lutz for most of the stuff coming in, but I think I can say that the county supervisor, as the county board of supervisors, as well as our county sheriff work very well together. We try to be very supportive with anything that he needs. we did help, Ken get a snowcat for Wrightwood, so, and we'll continue to help as we need to. So again, we just wanna encourage everyone, when you have something happen, call the sheriff's department, file a report, so we have the data to back up when the sheriff needs the funding. We can show, hey, this area is significantly disproportionate, we need more funding over here, we need to move bodies and that sort of thing. And also encourage anyone out here looking for a second career to feel free to apply for the sheriff's department.
Thank you.
But I think I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. But thank you for having us here.
Okay, we also have Silverlakes Code Enforcement up here. Anna is representing that, great team. So Susan is gonna make an introduction to that.
Hi again. This is Anna Diaz. She's our code enforcement supervisor. Code enforcement department has 19 dedicated officers. They're 24/7. They're here for swing shift, graveyard, days. Their night shift has a dispatcher. There's 2 officers that are on duty patrolling, and then we have an officer that's stationed in the RV park. I know some of you know that there have been several incidents that were of major concern around here. About 2 years ago, it was when all the catalytic converters were being stolen. And that was happening almost nightly. We had to lock up our vehicles. I know the school had to lock up their vehicles. CSD was locking them up. Code enforcement was out watching, started recognizing vehicles, and they're the ones that followed some of the people and were able to call the sheriff, followed them until the sheriff got here, and that arrest was made for the catalytic converters. The next incident we had was the graffiti and the rock throwing, where they broke all the windows and all the vehicles. Again, code enforcement got a call because they're aware of who the kids are and where they live. Instead of running around chasing, where they had been, code enforcement went to the house of one of the kids, sat there, waited outside, and the garage happened to be open, so he knew they were out. And again, code enforcement was able to identify the kids, put them under citizen's arrest, and hold them until the sheriff got here. So they also were involved in catching those kids. Just recently, we had a call from, I think it was the sheriff, right? I think it was either sheriff.
The 7th?
Yeah.
They were out here looking for the.
They were out here looking for a gentleman. Is that better? Yes. Sheriff was out here looking for a gentleman. He was all in black. They told code enforcement they were looking for him, didn't know where he was. Code enforcement was able to find him on our cameras over at the market, kept an eye on him, called the sheriff. Sheriff came out immediately. So I don't know what this guy did, but I'm assuming it was not something good for him to come so fast. But again, that arrest was made. So I know we think that code enforcement isn't doing what they're supposed to, or you feel they're not doing, some people feel they're not doing what they're supposed to. Like Captain said, with Spring Valley Lake, our code enforcement, we don't call security because it gives you a sense of security and that they are here to protect your belongings. They're not. Code enforcement, like security at Spring Valley Lake, are here to protect our amenities. They patrol the community, and they will make calls as they can. They will do welfare checks if you call them and you know your neighbor hasn't been seen. They do welfare checks, vacation patrols. Of course, they're picking up the stray animals all the time. and they do the amenity checks. So when they're asking for IDs, and I know it gets a little annoying because you've been there all day and they've checked it 3 times. Well, if they don't check you 3 times and someone else sees that they didn't check you, but they checked me, people get upset. So that's their job, is to check and make sure that everybody that's there belongs there. We're protecting the amenities to maintain the values of your homes. I talked about that. Anna wanted me to mention 95% of our code enforcement live here in the community. So they are invested in making sure they do whatever they can to help. So again, like the captain said, please make sure to make those calls. And I think even if they don't want someone to come out, they can make a call to make a report.
Yes, for in progress, life-threatening, we have a telephone reporting unit. We'll take your reports right over the phone and either ask you to take a photo and email it to them, or a deputy will come out as a follow-up. That's what a lot of these follow-ups are. And they'll take the photographs to put it into our system. But we started up the telephone reporting unit after COVID, and it's been doing very well on getting your non-deputy needed, where you need documentation and things like that. They are doing those all the time now, and it helps us a lot. So call.
Whatever the incident is, that's the best thing we can all do, is make the phone call. You can call code enforcement if you see somebody, they'll come out and observe. They're gonna report to the sheriff or CHP, but they're always gonna wanna hear from the person. They will not take a report from us, they have to talk to you. So make sure you're the one making the report, please.
I just have one thing to say. As far as our code enforcement, when they are called out, they respond quickly. There was probably 50 off-road vehicles at they were driving into the lake with their vehicles, and we happened to see, so we called code enforcement, and this little tiny girl went out there, and every one of those big, off-road vehicles, they left immediate, and it was within 10 minutes. They had it
Thank you.
completely cleared. And we were worried so much, we were worried if somebody got hurt from what they were doing, we are liable.
Absolutely.
Yes, so we are all liable. But
Absolutely.
they respond so, we were amazed, we were amazed, and this little tiny girl came, and we were like, is she, but she did, they left, every one of them.
All right, so now, you're gonna borrow your microphone.
I do have one question before we go out, and probably for CJ.
Not that long. No, it's pretty short.
His is long.
Which one's longer?
I'm gonna wait a minute.
Go ahead and ask.
Tim, this one here?
I frequently get questions about how we get some speed bumps or speed humps like Spring Valley Lake has. How do we get that?
I know, an asphalt guy.
He
does good work. He does good work.
Is that something we can look into?
Well, yeah, this is the first I'm hearing of the interest, and so I can take it back to our office and see what we can do. I know in Valley Lake, they have that municipal advisory council, and that's kind of where that originated from. And because they're kind of self-governing out here, I'm not sure, depending on what it is, but I'm not sure exactly how it wants to be approached, maybe with the request from school board, but how the funding mechanism would work, but it's something I'll look into it, and I'll let both of you and whoever the superintendent is for the school district as well. Okay, I'll give you my card, and we can touch base.
Because we already have his number.
We did just put them in Gus Randall.
All right, so now we'll go to questions, and just so everyone can hear, we're gonna ask you to step to the microphone, and then we'll let one of our panel, respond to your question. Sir, can you come to the microphone?
I don't think it's enough.
It is.
Test, 1, 2, It's on. You just have to speak directly into it.
Hi, my name's Brian. We have a question for the sheriff's department. It seems that we got targeted for a while with credit card skimming or something at our market and the trip code. A lot of people reported it, obviously, on Facebook. Probably didn't call you, but, it seemed very specific. The market, the trip code, and the attempt to make payment or use the card was done in a Walmart disparity. Has that been investigated? Could you enlighten us on the status?
I don't know, because I don't know exactly when it happened, report numbers. If I have that kind of data, if you can give that to Stacy over there, she'll be able to research that and say it is. A lot of those, may not have been reported. I just don't know when it is. I get a log every shift, every day, but I don't remember all the calls.
Yep.
But if you give it to Stacy, she can get an answer back for you.
Thanks, sir. We did file I did file when my car got stolen. It was a big bill that was buried at Walmart.
Okay.
It was also used in Las Vegas. So there is a.
I'll
report out
investigate
there.
that.
That was a couple years ago, but it's out there, so.
Yeah. If Stacy gets that information, she can do the research on it.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to another question.
You know, stand up. I don't think I need the microphone, those who know me. Okay, so that people understand, Captain, what the vehicle code considers a licensed driver and the criteria to meet that, I think that might be something, because when we got our licenses, it was a lot different, okay? You need to maybe explain that a little bit, and then go back again to the actual golf cart and what is and what isn't, and what can happen regarding low-speed vehicles. I know the golf carts here, if they're a golf cart, have to have insurance, not a license. That may be a requirement with the board though, with the association.
That's not
Because if
true.
they get into a traffic accident, what happens?
It's only required on our amenities.
No, I'll just.
And it usually goes through your health
All right, so you asked specifically about insurance. A golf cart is not a vehicle. There's no requirement for insurance in California to operate a golf cart. If you're gonna operate a vehicle, that's what requires insurance. What do you want me to clarify on golf carts? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Well, the ability to mount the clubs in the back versus a low-speed vehicle. And also if the kids in that vehicle, don't they have to be restrained?
If it's a low-speed vehicle?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to have,
Right.
proper restraints, but
Exactly.
we're talking golf carts.
No, we're talking both.
Okay,
Because
well,
I think, well,
hang on,
okay.
so I'm trying to make sure exactly what you're asking, because I don't wanna talk out of turn.
I understand. So, we see a lot of that, and again, the common thread here, I'm pretty sure that we don't have any parents here with kids that are younger than 18 years old, I'm just saying. And we're not a bunch of Karens trying to make a bunch of crap, but none of us in this building right now want to run over one of these kids. And if the parents are allowing that activity, wouldn't that be Penal Code Section 273A, child endangerment? Because they're placing that child.
No.
No.
An environment, okay, so answer me this, if they're driving a golf cart, how do we know that they have the ability to drive a golf cart safely? We're all licensed drivers, we have to take a driver's
I
test and
understand.
examination.
I understand. So, I feel like you're trying to back me into a corner here with
No,
something.
no, I'm not trying to do that,
I'm
but
trying to understand what your
this is
question
why
is.
we're here, though.
I totally get that. I'm happy to answer your question, but it feels a little badgering.
I'm sorry.
And you're
Please
bouncing
don't
around a
take
bunch of
it that
stuff,
way.
hang on. You're bouncing around a bunch of stuff, and then like you want to answer, you say you don't want that answer. So what is your exact question you want me to answer?
Enforcement wise, nobody here again that is causing this problem.
totally get that.
Is here. So, as a public outreach, besides this, what are your plans to make sure the people responsible for this activity are aware of it and potentially the problems they legally could assume?
As far as like, how am I gonna do an outreach here? First of all, like I said, I'm trying to see how great the problem is. If it's 5 people doing it, I can just take directed enforcement on that. If it's greater than that, we'll probably work out something where we attend the schools. If most people are saying it's a younger group, I'm assuming probably predominantly in the middle school,
The high school, yes.
you know, and the high school. Like, I don't think the elementary school is the problem. That's where we'd like to maybe do some public outreach. I'd work with the superintendent, see if maybe we set up a booth there and talk to the kids, see if people are coming in and out. But I wanna start off with seeing what the problem is. But again, I really, and I got your complaint. And so I totally understand the frustration with, you know, seeing certain things, but also too, I can't make up new ways to enforce it. And I understand where the thought process you're coming from with using child endangerment. You've gotta go with the code, I totally understand. But that's just not how the intent of that law works. And I can't manufacture a new way to go about that.
So what you're saying is, in essence, that a parent allowing their child to operate a low-speed vehicle on a roadway is not a crime?
I didn't say it wasn't a crime,
Okay.
but it's not child endangerment.
What
Would
is
they
it then?
potentially, hang on, would they potentially?
Educate me then.
Would they potentially be liable? And there are vehicle codes for specifically allowing someone who's unlicensed to operate a vehicle that we could utilize, but I can't use felony child endangerment for somebody driving a golf cart.
It's a while, there could be a misdemeanor.
I
The
understand.
point being that if you make these people aware of that, then maybe they will take a little more consideration as to what they're allowing their children to do.
Yeah, I can't make them, if it's not something I can use to enforce it, I'm not gonna use it as like a threat tool. I can't make
We're
it.
not talking threats, we're talking again, public outreach, like
I
you're doing here.
understand, but I'm happy to use other laws that apply, but just allowing a kid to drive a golf cart, I can't use the child endangerment aspect like you.
Even if they're underage.
Perhaps you can carry the conversation on afterwards and we'll get to some more questions.
Thank you, Ken. This is still with you, Ken.
You got it, sorry, couldn't get your.
This should be, hopefully this is a little easier. Your policy on abandoned vehicles that may be left in the desert, we're talking either RVs or abandoned cars. I know you probably have some process where if there's something out in the desert, if a citizen needs to report it, I don't know if you pay for the towing or some other entity would pay for towing, or if that's something, maybe the sheriff department might get involved in, I'm not quite sure.
If it's abandoned out in the desert and it's not a county maintained roadway, I don't have authority to store that vehicle. The abandoned sections, and we talked about this, I think, in one of our other meetings, there's no 72-hour ordinance in San Bernardino County, as far as I'm aware, as far as like taking something after 3 days it's been parked. Are you aware of one on that?
No, we would call code enforcement,
Yeah.
county code enforcement.
So, there's limitations where we can
Yeah.
get back to the definitions of stuff. If it's off the highway, like these abandoned RVs and stuff out in the middle of nowhere, if it's not a county maintained road, I can't go out there and tow it. But there's abatement things you can work with the county on. For
Now,
sure.
if it is, say on 66, an abandoned RV or some type of vehicle just sitting there, maybe it's a hazard or something.
I mean, like on Hellendale Road.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. Would that be something that you would get involved in if it's on a roadway of that nature?
Potentially, yeah, there are, again, we have to operate with what we're allowed to do, is what's prescribed in the vehicle code. There are some counties that have like a 72-hour ordinance where we go tag it, it hasn't moved for 72 hours, we go tow it. To the best of my understanding, talk with the county. I thought we talked about this the last meeting, the thing in all the snow areas, and the thing.
Spring Valley
This
Lake,
Spring Valley one.
they do have it, it's just not, it's not enforced the same way.
Yeah, it's a civil.
Some of this is just making sure I have the teeth to do it correctly. Well, the 72-hour thing is something I'll double check on with the county. It's the vehicle code with using the section where I can take a car if it's blocking the road. I can store a car if the driver's been arrested. I can store a car if the driver's been transported out of a crash. I can store a car if, there's lots of enumerated things. One of them is a 72-hour provision if there's a county ordinance allowing it. But here's the thing about that 72-hour ordinance. I come out and tag a car, they move it to the next block over, that's not the same spot anymore, now it starts all over again. There's some weird,
Yeah.
you know, I wish there was a better answer on some of that stuff. What I would say is if it's on the road, it's even remotely a hazard, please call us, so we can come out, have one of my officers assess it, and potentially tow it. Because if it's a hazard where it's on the road, we'll just come take it for, we call it B-Boy, for blocking, we'll come swoop it up. Because I'd much rather take it than let someone crash into it, if it's a hazard. But they need to assess it, you know, each case, if that makes sense, so.
Thank you.
Just real quick, Henry, I know a while back, someone actually from the CSD reached out to us about an abandoned vehicle on 66, half a truck, or, got in touch with the county and they removed it, so I'm pretty sure they took that away. So if you you have anything like that, like in the desert or off the road on the dirt, call our office and we can work through that.
County icon.
Hi, my name is Norm Hornfall, and I'm very proud to be a resident here in Silverlakes for over 12 years. And I was really pleased to hear that there are very few real criminal reports. I think the captain said 3 or 5 in a month. And that's a credit to the people who live here and to the parents and the people that live here that monitor everyone's behavior. And I was just very pleased to hear that. And I always stop if I see a sheriff or a highway patrolman out here in Hellendale. I stop and thank them for being here, and they seem to really welcome that.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Cerrone. I would like to know, let's just say that we do hire armed security. What would they be able to do? If they see a crime going on, what are they going to be able to do for us?
Let's bounce that to Captain Lutz.
It goes back to the standard law in California. You have a right to make a citizen's arrest as long as you have the elements. You're not protected liability if you make a false arrest. So your security, if there's security, they would have to have a guard card and or armed guard card. So they require to have education. But you as the entity that hires that group is liable for all their actions. So if they think they have a crime and they make an arrest and it's a false arrest, your group is going to be subject to a lawsuit. They're not immune from civil litigation and that. If they shoot someone and it isn't a righteous shooting, then you could have criminal offenses. So you can do what you wish in making a citizen's arrest, but it must be lawful. And I think someone used the term Karen earlier. You can't be a Karen because they upset you because you don't like the t-shirt they wore or whatever, X, Y, or Z. It has to be a violation of law and a lawful arrest. If not, again, you're subject to civil litigation. So whatever your group does, security guard at Walmart, security guard at Gators Bar, they still have to follow the law. So that's what you have to do.
We have about 7 minutes left for this portion, and then our law enforcement representatives will be here to answer any questions you may have afterwards. So we have time for a few more questions.
My name's Heather Albin. I appreciate you guys coming here. I have a question. So I feel like a part of the frustration, I think, for the community is that we all super care about where we live and all the things, which is amazing. But I think that I think Facebook actually does have some value in our town with helping one another out and also to be aware of certain things, okay? So we can't discount that completely, but what we can do is educate people correctly. And a lot of times when I see posts and people post very, very clear things that are inappropriate and illegal and something to warn people about, they said, I already called. I'm wondering if people are calling the wrong phone number, first of all. I wonder if they think it's not a 911 thing, so maybe I'm calling the non-emergency number, whatever. So if you could, at the end, maybe give to Ms. Bellini the appropriate phone numbers to call for which things, and we could use those as guidelines. We can pin them on my calendar, on my administrator on there. We can give that information out to people so that people can start giving the right information, and then we can look at the data and make sure that it is actually for sure correct for you as well. And then my next question for you is, and also for Mr. Cook's representative, is I'm super frustrated. I'm a board member for 8 years on the school board. I'm a delegate. I go to DC. I go to Sacramento. I hold people accountable. I find out who they are. I hear a lot of things that make me angry that you're not supported. So if he goes to you and you can only do so much, who do I need to go to make sure that he has more officers? Because it's inappropriate to have one person at night cover 1,100 miles. That's ridiculous. So do I need to go to Mr. Cook or who do I need to go to talk to? Because that's not appropriate, because they need to be more supported. It's ridiculous. And then as far as getting sheriffs, can we work with you as a school district for you guys to come and talk to our kids? Because
100%.
we have kids that don't want to go to college and I want them to have jobs. and they might not know how tangible it is.
Yeah. So real quick on the jobs. We actually created a position within the sheriff's department that when you are 18, you can get hired in our jail as a sheriff's custody assistant. They're the ones that work at the front counter. Because what happens when they turn 18 but they're not 21, they want to become a cop? They get stupid. And they do dumb things that preclude them from being a cop. So we've created the sheriff's custody assistant just for that reason. If you have a career day in your school district, you tell us, call me at the office. I come out all the time. I'm on the department's diversity committee. We will have a recruitment booth there. No problem. Sheriffsjobs.com. Simple. Sheriffsjobs.com. Goes to all of our positions. But we will come out and talk to the kids. If you want to, where's Stacy hiding? Stacy's in the back. Stacy's great about coming out and doing public information events and things like that. You ask, we'll find a way to get there. I do a lot of it myself because I'm more flexible in my schedule than what my staff is. So, yeah, I just don't do well with little kids.
On the other question that you had, the County Board of Supervisors is the ultimate authority when it comes to funding the Sheriff's Department and providing those positions. Whether they can be staffed or not, occasionally it can be a different story. The Board of Supervisors meets typically twice a month in San Bernardino, 10 a.m. If the next meeting is the 28th of January, you can call our office as well. We work very well with the sheriffs and the Sheriff's Department, and we try to get them what they need. But again, feel free to call our office. You can come to a Board of Supervisors meeting. And I'll give you my card after the meeting. Oh yeah, you can actually watch the meetings online as well, but if you're gonna wanna give public comment, you have to come in person.
Okay.
Thank you. Next question.
Yeah, a couple things. If I understood it right, you have to be 18 years old to have a driver's license? Is it 16? All right, that took care of that quick. Okay. The other question I have is, you guys were all up here about 4 years ago. We had a meeting very similar to this, and you guys do a great job, but kind of the same answers. Okay, like, hey, we really can't do anything. One of the questions I have is directly, I guess, to the county representative is, this deal on speed bumps and speed humps has been going on for like 10 years. That people have been asking for this. So, I would ask you to check on it, and if we have this meeting like in 4 years from now, I'm gonna, not be so happy. That's all I have.
And honestly, this is the first time I'm hearing of this. I don't think we've gotten any calls at our office about speed humps in this area.
I think people just don't know who to call.
Yeah, and then maybe part of the issue, but we can work with, I'll work with our office and see, how to approach this, and we'll, like I mentioned earlier,
We were gonna call the CHP. The CHP said they would try to get something out with the school zones, and it just didn't happen, so they're understanding that their manning is not there, so that's completely understanding, but if we could get some momentum in there with the county office to get those people, that'd be great, good for kids.
All right, we got time for one more question, and then you guys can line up and ask personal questions. The gentleman in the back.
Hi, this is Carlos Pano. Just a quick question, because I think it makes sense to us, and we understand, everybody understands budgets and cuts and not having the resources that we need. So what do you say to us, and the people, you see this is a pretty big crowd, because people care, this is a big deal for us. Facebook, a lot of it is anecdotal, we know that, but there is some truth to that. You can clearly see that there is things happening here, and maybe those are smaller nuisance crimes, people's packages being stolen, that's happening quite a bit. But there are things that are happening, and so what do you say to us now, with the resources that you have, what can you do for us? Can we expect to see a little bit more presence? Or do we just have to, basically suck it up for the meantime? Like, what do we do to try to prevent those kind of things that are happening here? Even the graffiti and those maybe smaller crimes that don't compare, and thankfully we do have a good community, so they're not as bad, but what do we do in the meantime?
Report it.
First thing is just what you're talking about here. You have a community. Everything starts with your community and you coming together as a group. You looking out for your neighbor. I live up at 395 in Eucalyptus. okay? I've been in the high desert for 30 years. Every Labor Day, I open my house and I have a pool party for my neighbors. So I know that is Sally, that's Mary, that's Bill, that's John. If I see someone I don't know, I report it. So that's the first thing. Staffing is what staffing is. Until we get people in the seats, we can't magically put someone here and pull them from Lucerne. So that's just the logistics. So it always goes back to the grassroots. The community taking care of itself first. And I talk about the emergencies. You're gonna have an earthquake. And people say you've gotta be self-sufficient for 72 hours. I'm gonna tell you from my perspective, that's BS. If you're not self-sufficient for at least 7 to 10 days, we can't be everywhere like in LA. 4,000 firefighters fighting those fires. 3 million gallons of water in those water tanks. But when they open up every fire hydrant and those houses burn down and those PEC lines of water start draining the system, you're not gonna do anything except for take care of your neighbor. And that's what you need to do. Put in the calls for service. Because then the county supervisors, this is the best, and I've been in the department 30 plus years, this is the best working relationship we've had with our sheriff's department and the county board. But they need the data, okay? They have been giving us money out of the American Recovery Act, giving us money to put in for this new station. They are willing to do it as much as their finance allows it. I need butts in the seat. But it comes back to you being good neighbors, working with each other, working with your HOA and your CSD, and you be the first line of defense. And if they don't belong there, call it in. Thank God for code enforcement, can follow them a lot, but make them uncomfortable. Stand on your yard and you look at them. Don't engage, unless you have pepper spray and things. But you are the first line of defense in everything you're talking about. Being good neighbors and knowing who your neighbor is. And those that don't belong, they can get their ass out, sorry. Bad word.
So in closing, just kind of a summary thought here. We are all concerned about our community safety. We used to have a fairly robust neighborhood watch program out here, but with COVID, like a lot of things, it went by the wayside. Could I see a show of hands of those in the room that are interested in helping to revive the neighborhood watch program? Okay, there's quite a few of you. Captain, can you speak a moment about neighborhood watch and how that works with the sheriff's department?
I sure can. Stacy.
Stacy, you have been called to the front. Stacy, come on up so you can, everyone can see.
To the front, girl.
Captain, what is Stacy's title?
Stacy, she is my public information officer, she's my volunteer coordinator, and she is my go-to for anything I can't do.
Yeah, Neighborhood Watch is thanks. Neighborhood Watch is a program ran by the community, by the neighbors. So what we recommend is that you get together and come up with a date that you'd like to start the program. We usually need about 2 to 3 weeks notice. We'll come out for your first program, bring out some resources, some materials for you, and then I will remain your contact through the department. You'll have my cell phone number, my email, that type of thing. We recommend that you meet either monthly or every 2 months so you can keep the program going. We don't make it to every meeting because we have a large area that we cover, but if you need help, we ask that you email concerns, call me with concerns, anything like that, and we work directly with you. And also, if you want to have programs where maybe you want some training on gangs or drugs, something like that, then I'm responsible. I'll get those speakers for you and we'll come out and for your meeting. So, yeah. Yeah.
What about, I really recognize that we have to do more as a community, and I think that cameras are very helpful. How would we go about getting, could we get signage once we really motivate most of us to get cameras to say this community is under video surveillance?
That would probably fall under your code enforcement.
It would fall back to your CSD and your
It
HOA.
would go to actually county code enforcement
Yeah.
because they govern our streets out here, so we would have to work with the supervisor's office for that. But we also wanna make sure it's real and not just a dummy camera, and that we really are enforcing. So in an upcoming ledger, I just spoke to Susan, we'll put information in there on contacting one of us so that we can start an interest list. And hopefully someone will step forward amongst you in the community who's willing to be a champion for that project. Recently, the CERT program for the community has been revitalized in large part to the efforts of Gail Gwynn, and Angela Rosenberg is the CERT commander for here. And that is also a self-help for our community. It's a community emergency response team. Angie, you wanna come up and speak a little bit about that group and how many you have and how the community can participate? Right up here, ma'am.
Well, hi, you can all hear me. So, in light of what just happened, do you really feel you're prepared for anything? No. There's so many things that you've never thought about. Do you know where, more importantly, do you know what your neighbor is ready for? Do you know, is he a shut-in? Is he packing, right? You gotta have a reason to knock on one of my neighbor's doors because we could shoot you. So, our CERT committee, we have what, 21 on the mailing list? We're new. The CERT commander left and handed me a folder and said, bye. So we're young. We're trying to educate people. We just did a emergency financial first aid kit. Are y'all ready? If your house burnt down, would you know who to call? Where's your insurance? Where's your health care? So we meet Monday nights at 6 o'clock. CSD building, first Monday of the month. It all depends on which room is available, but there's always something interesting to prepare you for the big one, right? Because out here, you said 72 hours?
Yeah, I don't believe in that.
We need 3 weeks, people.
Yep.
Are you thinking about your dogs, your kids, your cats, your lizards? So if you come to the meeting, you don't have to necessarily be a CERT, call us up and we do things, but you'll learn something. You'll meet people, like you said, community outreach. I don't know where that gentleman went. It's free. And, oh, there's no charge. And Debbie sometimes feeds us. So, Monday nights, first Monday of the month, 6 p.m., join us.
At the CSD building. With that?
There was a question here on whether or not those meetings, it might get people to come involved and get like see it once.
I would have to depend on if we had a tech person, which,
We could Zoom the CERT meetings if there's a request, but you'd have to get that request to Angela and then we can set that up. So with that, we have kept you here
Yes,
longer
thank you.
than we anticipated. I see Director Smith wants to make a final comment or
Just real quickly, I wanna bring it back to neighborhood.
somebody had to evacuate his lizard.
Pat LeBrecq, in the room, Patrick LeBrecq.
I didn't see him tonight.
Okay, so I reached out to Patrick, he is he's the individual that set up our last neighborhood watch, what, 6 months ago? A year? At any rate, I sent him an email and asked him if he could be here today, and he said he had a meeting somewhere else this morning, he was gonna try. But Pat LeBrecq set up the last one, and he actually did put out a blast, I saw it, that if people were still interested in reconvening the neighborhood watch to reach out to him. So it's Patrick LeBrecq, and I'm sure it's under the Hellendale, or is it McMasterson?
I've seen Masterson.
Mason says, or Master. At any rate, look under the, Silverlakes, Hellendale Watch, or so, so that would be a good point of reference in order to start. So some of the steps have already been accomplished, and I think it would just be a matter of getting folks, back involved.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Let's thank our representatives.
Sorry, before we wrap up, someone asked this real quick. If anyone is in danger, life injury, anything like that, call 911, okay? Even if it's something simple like there's a box in the middle of the road, but if that could cause a crash, call 911 to report it. I'm gonna give you the phone number for our office if you need to file a traffic complaint. So for instance, I received regarding the golf carts. I went and checked back, we haven't received a single traffic complaint on golf carts at my office in the past calendar year. So that's how I get it directly. So the telephone number for our office, and they'll take it over the phone, we'll assign it to an officer, 760-241-1186. Again, 760-241-1186. That's the Victorville CHP office. That's an 8 to 5 kind of phone number. We cover you up to just past here. And then one last tiny plug, since he plugged it, chpmadeformore.com. We're doing a virtual hiring seminar on Monday. They can watch it. chpmadeformore.com. We are fortunate up here, the majority of our officers all live in the high desert. So if you have good people in your community, maybe they're a later teenager, but you think they'd be a good cop, have them check us out. Maybe they'd rather be a sheriff, have them check out the sheriff's department. He's half tan, I'm full tan, whatever, I don't care. But we both need good local people. Well, because, you know, Officer Wheeler lives up here. He cares way more about his community. He's not some transient person working in East LA who lives in Menifee and drives an hour. They don't care about their community as much as people that live up here do. Talk about all your code enforcement live here. It makes a difference in the quality of cop you're gonna get, whether it's highway patrol or sheriff. It makes a little difference to me a lot of time. But if you know any good people, again, we'd be happy for them, and I know they would too. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next Board of Supervisors meeting is this Tuesday on the 14th, sorry, not the 28th. I was getting some mixed up, so 14th at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Okay, with that, yes, please.
I just wanted to say one last thing, points of interest in Neighborhood Watch.
Zoom in on the system.
And we also talked about CERT. A lot of the groups, the Neighborhood Watch groups, combine their CERT and their Neighborhood Watch. So that's also something to think about, because a lot of times, I mean, everybody has so many meetings that they go to, but really the interest with Neighborhood Watch and CERT is the same, it's protecting our community. So that's something to look at as well.
Great point. With that, our folks up here will be here for any personal questions you want to come up and ask them, and let's thank them again for their.